Now on Sunday, of course, Mohill and Carrick, well known to each other in senior championship deciders, and I'm delighted to be joined by one of the stalwarts and one of the elders of Mohill GAA Club, Matt Gaffey. You're very welcome to the programme.
Thanks very much, Breffney. Glad to be here.
Matt, you're well known to virtually everybody in the GAA circles in the county, but particularly in Mohill, and I don't think there's been a success in Mohill over the last, I'm going to say 50 years, that hasn't got your fingerprints all over it. First of all, tell us how you arrived in Mohill.
Well, I arrived there as a young teacher in 1968, and I became involved in sport immediately in the school. And from the late 60s, I've been involved in GAA coaching ever since. So this year, in 2020, I began my 7th decade of coaching in Leitrim. So
that's phenomenal. 7 decades. Most people don't even live that long. In terms of, I suppose, your involvement with Mohill, what's your first memory of GAA and Gaelic games in the town?
Well, I was at a 7-a-side tournament one night, and Mohill played Longford Slashers, and they received a bit of a hiding. And immediately after the game, I was approached by one of the stalwarts of the club, a man who later became a chairman of the club, and who's dead now for quite a few years, died as a young man, a lovely fellow, Michael Gallagher. Michael asked me would I take over the senior team and train them. And I took over and trained the team, and we won the championship first go. What
do you remember about that summer? And that would have been 1971.
That's right, yeah.
What memories do you still carry 49 years later?
I have fantastic memories. I think in sport, really, the memories are of the friendships that you and the bonds that you form with people are more important. That may not seem to be so with the players coming on next Sunday, but when they look back on their careers later, it'll be the friendships that they made and the bonds that they formed with other people that live long in the memory, and that's the situation as it was with me.
When you look at that team in 71 and fast forward almost 50 years and you look at the names that are lining out for Mohill this weekend, are there any similarities? Are there any dads or granddads? We struggle with dads, but any granddads that have been part of that team now, that looking at their offspring and their offspring's offspring?
Well, it certainly would have aunts, not aunts, but uncles of players now. You know, I just mentioned Michael Gallagher there now. He would have been an uncle to the Mitchell boys playing on the team at the moment, you know. So that would be the kind of connection. So Michael McGuinness, you know, Michael is a fantastic cornerback for Leitrim. He was selected on the Leitrim team of the last 20 years. Michael, brilliant, absolutely brilliant footballer. Michael's dad was on the team. He was one of the main men on the team, and indeed he was selected on the Leitrim Millennium team later on, Michael was. And they would be two of that just spring to mind at the moment. Now there may be others that I can't just recall.
Yeah, of course, Michael Selector with this year's
That's
team.
Right, Michael Selector.
Of course, his brother John.
Oh, yes.
Was a stalwart also of many county teams, and won that Connacht Junior or Connacht Minor championship back in '98.
That's right.
And of course, unfortunately, Philip, who the pitch is named after.
Oh yes, very
10 years ago this summer.
Yes, indeed.
How much of an impact does that have in the 10 years since that happened on a club like Mohill? Is that still been felt?
Oh yes, very, very strongly. The date of his death is the 19th of April, and always around that occasion, Philly is very fondly remembered. This year, as a matter of fact, I gave an interview to Ocean Radio on the date of on the anniversary of his death.
Yeah. And how much of this year's championship have you managed to see?
I've seen nearly all Mohill's games anyhow, yeah. I've seen most of the games. The ones that were on pay-per-view, I saw them all, yes.
You haven't been threatening to get in behind enemy lines and in behind closed doors and fighting with security guards to get into grounds?
No, but I was at the first game that Mohill played against Ballinamore, and Ballinamore won the game, but I had a bet on after the game. I put the bet on after the game on Mohill to win the championship, because I saw a lot in them that day. I saw that there was great room for improvement, and I was confident that under the management of Liam Keenan and his selectors, Michael McGuinness, Mickey Quinn, and Enda, his trainer from Longford. A very good team. Liam is a very nice fella and very personable fella, and I was confident that they'd get the best out of the players, and I think they have so far.
You mentioned the first game. Well, the second game was against Sunday's opponents, Carrick and Shannon, and a lot's been talked about that day because Mohill came and blew Carrick away, but there's been a very different Carrick and Shannon and St Mary's side since then.
Well, I think the management of the Carrick team have to be given great credit for that now, Dennis Connerton is a very experienced manager, and two old buddies of myself when I was over here training the team, Anthony Conway and Fergal Reynolds are his selectors, and two sound men, and fair play to them, turning things around, and they really got the best out of the players since. I mean, to go down to Melvin Gales and win there was a phenomenal achievement, and to beat Ballinamore then as well, they've really come through a very difficult patch now. They were quite good teams. Many people would have fancied Ballinamore especially, and also Melvin Gales, always very difficult to beat to win the championship, and fair play to Carrick, they did the business.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about you and your connection to Mohill, we can't forget one other success that you had at senior championship level, and that was on the sideline as a manager of Carrick. His opponents. Yes. Is there a split loyalty in your house, or are you very much...
No split loyalty. I have great admiration for Carrick, for the Carrick club. The people of Carrick were very nice to me when I was over here coaching the team. I forged many great friendships when I was here, particularly with my selectors, my great friend Kieran Reynolds, Michael Martin, one of the all-time greats of Leitrim football, Kevin O'Rourke and Alan O'Shea. They were the lads who worked in the couple of years I was here, and all very fine men, I have to say. And I have great admiration and respect for the club. But I've always been involved in the school and in the club in Mohill, and I've been down so many lanes and been involved in so many games of them over the years that I'm afraid that the Mohill GAA is in my DNA, and my loyalty can't be questioned.
So you'll definitely be wearing green on Sunday then?
Oh yes.
There's also another family interest, because obviously your grandson Killian, not with the squad this year because of soccer commitments with Sligo Rovers, but did make his Leitrim competitive debut back in January as a St Mary's player. Have you got any sway? Can you convince him to come back, maybe even sign for Mohill, or is he a St Mary's man on the Gaelic pitch?
I think I'd have to say he'd be a St Mary's man now. You see, he grew up with it. A lot depends on who you grew up with, and that kind of thing. Incidentally, he was totally illegal that day playing for Leitrim. It was only discovered afterwards he was still 17, and one must be 18 to play for the county team. But it wasn't recognised until after the game that he was too young to play.
So does it count as a debut then?
Well, they were beaten by... it does, I'm sure, but they were beaten by Roscommon on the day, so...
Yeah, he came on, didn't get an injury to Jeremy McKiernan. Yes, he came on the day. Probably the youngest player ever to play for Leitrim in modern times, anyway.
Yes.
Well, obviously, he was too young, so he must have been. Yeah. In terms of the game, how do you see it playing out on Sunday? Because you've seen so many of these games over the years.
Yes.
What's your expectations of the game on Sunday?
Well, I think it's going to be a very close game. Both teams are very similar in ways, insofar as there's a great blend of youth and experience on both teams. There's 5 or 6 of the St Mary's team. They're still who were there when I was at the St Mary's team, and Mohill then have a great blend of youth and experience as well. We have, for instance, our captain there, Daniel Beck, a man who was given phenomenal service to Mohill. He's a great leader on and off the pitch. He's marvellous leadership qualities. He's a great role model for the younger players, always guiding them along the right way. And he's captain of the team as well. And he's been very good. Ronan Kennedy is also there since 2006. Ronan, he's won many finals with the last kick of the game practically. And one man unlucky to lose out this time, I think, will be Ronan Gallagher, because Ronan made great efforts to get back from injuries he's suffered the last couple of years. This year he did get back and was beginning to play very well until, unfortunately, he suffered a hamstring injury. So I think, from what I hear, he's probably ruled out. Those 3 lads are there from 2006. So both teams would have fellas from that era, But then great young players came in. Now, I was involved with more underage teams in recent times, and I was involved with the minor team that won the minor championship in 2015, and I was looking at a photograph that was taken recently there, and amazingly there's 13 of that team on the panel for at present, and that includes lads who played the last little, like David Mitchell, Keith Byrne, the Harkin brothers, great lads, all great lads. The Harkins are lads with fantastic attitude, and David Mitchell, great young fella, cornerback, and in the quarter final there, from his cornerback position, he sneaked up and got a lovely, beautifully taken goal, So those are the type of players. Jordan Reynolds was also involved in that 2015 team.
In terms of that, because you kind of preempted my next question, which was, as an educator and as a teacher and as a youth coach as well as at senior level in Mohill over the years, and with Leitrim, you've seen so many players come through those teams. Is there a preference in your head in terms of watching those lads develop as players and as individuals and as men and women, of course, yes, involved in women's teams as well, but do you watch their progress, or do you prefer to see them? Is it about winning senior titles, or is it about everything else that comes with the development of those players?
So far as I would be concerned, development of players would be my role in the club over the years, developing young players. And if the work is done properly, there's so much that has to be gained by young people from it. Aside from the football element at all, of course, fun for a start is number one for the young players, and then full development of skills. Don't worry about the positional play until later on. And if the job is being done well and they're being guided properly, they're picking up so many life skills. They're picking up, for instance, teamwork. How to be a member of a team in any walk of life, be it factory floor or school, any place else. Teamwork is so important. They're developing their social skills, their interpersonal skills, discipline, integrity, all those valuable life skills that are imparted to young people. And I would regard those things as so important for them, because very often young people will experience success, will also experience some failure. And I think the failure can be very helpful to young people as well, because, as I always say to them, lads, you suffered a little disappointment here today, and that helps to prepare you for the disappointments that we all meet as we go through life at some stage or other,
there really is the opportunity to learn from those little lessons that when it becomes bigger in everyday life. Yeah. No, I love that approach, and I think yes, I'd support that completely on a personal note. Yes. But how much pride do you take from watching those lads that you would know since they were barely old enough to kick a football, that they're now, I suppose, winning county championships, lining out for Leitrim possibly in the championship later this year? Well,
I take an awful lot of pride in it now. When I retired from school, I was principal of the school, and when I go to meetings, other principals be saying, and you're looking after the school teams, and I'd say, and how can you manage that? And you run the school. I'd say, no problem, and that would be my attitude. And in the Marian College and Mohill Community School, we had quite a number of successes. Now, at the beginning of this century, back in 2002, 3, 4, we won four Connacht finals, and we ended up in an All-Ireland final, which we were maybe a little bit unlucky to lose. And to see those lads coming through then onto the Mohill underage teams as well. And then I have been involved with the teams in the club itself then down through the years, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved with some great mentors, managers or trainers along with me, and we brought them through from under 14, under 16, minor, under 21, intermediate, and was also involved in junior success. So that would be, and I take pride in every one of them. When I have them there, I just take a special interest in them and show concern for them aside from sport at all. It's a concern in their welfare. Children won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Unless they know you care about them, you're not going to be a success with them. And a lot of team management is just being able to handle people, being able to deal with people, and to be nice to them, particularly the young people, and to give them very positive feedback. Every youngster that comes down to the park should be sent home feeling good about themselves, and just to make them feel important and good, and they grow on that, they thrive on that,
It's interesting you say that, because that's perfectly sound advice for anybody who's interested in any kind of career in coaching, even if it's just helping out around a team.
Yes.
But you're one of the tutor trainers for coach education in Leitrim. You have been for as long as I can remember.
That's right, yes.
What's that role like in educating the next group of people to come in and fill those shoes that you've worn over the years, and others much like you in every club up and down the county?
Yeah, well, I'm tutoring for nearly 20 years, but about 2007 then I think a number of us, 9 of us from Connacht, were asked to go to Croke Park to train to become tutor trainers, and we went up, and it was quite a very extensive course, a tough course enough. And we were there working on it we're travelling up and down and working on it for nearly a year. And then we came down to Connacht, and we decided then that the next step was to train in tutors. So over in Galway, we had 50 tutors, including lads from Leitrim now, lads like Barney Breen and Derek Keller and Mark Heslin and Thomas Keane, and those lads trained as tutors. And then I was doing most of the coach foundation and Award 1 coaching courses in the county, and then those lads were able to come out and do it as well. And in my own case now, I would have delivered foundation Award 1, Award 2 to over 2,000 coaches. Now, they don't all stay with us. Some of them are there while their children are playing, and when the children aren't playing a little longer, some parents back it up, but there are some who stay with it, and I think it has greatly improved things, because you could ask some inter-county player to go out there and do a session with youngsters. You mightn't have much notion at all, just because you're able to play doesn't mean you're able to coach, and to be able to coach skills properly, that's the biggest challenge for a coach, to know the component parts of the skill, and to be able to teach that, and to teach the component parts of the skill, and then to be able to observe and spot and fix what's going well, what isn't going well. Some people might bring them out, just say, you're able to kick the ball, good man. But there's a way for kicking the ball. There's a technique in every skill. There's a skill in teaching the skill, the basic points of the skill to be developed. And coaches should take note of that and insist that the youngsters develop that skill to do it properly. And also a big loss among some coaches is to be able to develop true-sighted players.
Absolutely.
Kick them with both hands and both feet and so on.
In terms of, to bring it back to Sunday's game and this year's championship, in terms of your experience, I suppose you're at a certain stage of life, and we're all talking now about people who are vulnerable, and I suppose your age group have been identified as someone who might be in a vulnerable situation. Do you have any fear going to a football match at the weekend? Is there any bit of you at all that kind of goes, it's not for me, or is it just a thing you're gonna die with your boots on?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question now, Brittany, because this year, everything was closed down in March, no coaching or anything, and then it was decided that yes, the coaching could begin again, and we had a meeting in Mohill. And I said, geez, lads, I don't think I'll be able to come back here because of my age. And I also had open heart surgery a number of years ago. I don't know if I'll be able to come in here now. And I was more or less throwing in the towel, but when this coaching was called, I couldn't resist and back down with the boys. And luckily, we sanitised the balls after training every evening, and all the little cones and all that kind of stuff. And I got on fine. So, and I enjoyed it for the few months.
So there's no chance that you won't be at that game on Sunday. Have you got a ticket?
I'm getting a ticket, yeah.
So you're all sorted and you can't wait.
Oh yes.
And definitely wearing green. No last minute decisions to change. No,
because of my investment, we'll put it that way, in the lads over the years, and I've great admiration for the captain, Daniel Beck. He's been phenomenal as a captain, brilliant fella. And as far as I'm concerned, he's a charismatic leader, and I'll be hoping that our charismatic leader will be lifting the Fina Cup on Sunday.
Well, listen, on that note, thank you very much for coming in, and the very best luck to you and to all your Mohill club men and supporters and the players, of course, and staff of the team on Sunday. Yes. And it'll be an interesting 60 minutes.
Yeah, could I just say before I finish?
Absolutely.
I believe that St Mary's will win a championship. But
really?
I believe they will win a championship, but just not this year. I think that they have a little bit more to go. The true lads of midfield, they've been phenomenal. Paul
Keeney
and David O'Connell. They've been excellent, And there was a young lad I had here when I was over in my last year here, Brian Farrell, and he was making a very good football, and I hadn't seen him for years, but I saw him in the last couple of games, and Carrie, I shouldn't say Carrie, but St Mary's, they're suffering the loss of Ushin, very good little footballer Ushin, but Brian is doing a very good job since he came in there, so.
Yeah, Brian found music and went off gallivant around the world with a guitar in his hand.
Very good player,
Yeah, fabulous footballer.
I'll be hoping that there is a championship in it for St Mary's, but not just this year.
Well, listen, thank you so much,
Okay.
Mark.